Okay, so this lesson is called one-step equations, and there are two types of one-step equations. There's either addition and subtraction or multiplication and division. Today we're going to focus on addition and subtraction, and then in the next lesson we'll do multiplication and division. So one-step equations is different from expressions because with expressions you end up with an answer that has variables in it. With one-step equations, you are going to end up with an answer that is a number. So you're actually going to tell me what does that variable represent? What number goes with that variable? So your goal for today is I can solve one-step equations using addition and subtraction. We're going to go ahead and get started. Remember to pause the video if you need me to slow down. Okay, so with one-step equations, we have some vocabulary that's very important. First of all, we have equation. So equation is a sentence in math that has an equal sign in it. That's another difference from an expression, is you don't have equal signs with expressions. So the second vocab word for equations is variable, and you should be familiar with that. You know that variable is just a fancy schmancy word for a letter. So it's a letter used to represent a value. You should also be familiar with the vocab word constant. So the constant is the number that is by itself without the variable in the equation. Same thing as with an expression. The word isolate means to have something all by itself. And where the key to solving an equation is to isolate the variable, which you're going to see. And then very important is inverse operations. So inverse operations means opposite operations. So what's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. And that's going to become very important as well. Okay, so when you solve equations, it means that you're going to find the variable that makes the mathematical sentence true. And in a minute, we're going to look at some examples. Okay, so there are two steps to solving a one-step equation, which is kind of ironic because it's called a one-step equation, but I've sort of added that one extra step in there because it helps you solve it easier. So step one is going to be to box the variable. So you're going to find the variable, the letter, and you're going to put a box around it, and you're going to see why that's really helpful. Then you're going to use inverse operations. Remember, those are opposite operations, to move the constant away from the variable. And the constant is that number that's by itself. Now, the really big thing with one-step equations is this golden rule. And I've even put bars of gold here so that you know how important it is. But the golden rule is whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other side of the equal sign. It's super, super, super important. If you don't follow the golden rule, you will not solve your equation properly. Whatever you do to the left, you do to the right. It's like the golden rule of friendship. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Okay, so we're ready to look at our first example. So what we're going to do is we found our variable x plus 5 equals 8. Put a box around your variable. That's step one. Now, find the constant that is attached to the variable. Well, this is the constant that's attached to him, his plus 5. What's the opposite of plus? Minus. So we have minus 5. And then whatever we do to the left of the equal sign, we have to do to the right. So we have to go minus 5. Now we draw a big equal sign there. Okay. Now what is positive 5 minus 5? So what's 5 minus 5? You should get 0. So these guys cancel each other out. And the only thing left, and you can even draw a line where the equal sign is if it helps you. The only thing left on this side is x. And then here you have 8 minus 5, which is 3. So your answer is x equals 3. Let's try another example. D minus 12 equals 5. So find your variable. Here he is. Put a box around him. Where's your constant that's attached to him? Right here. What is he? Well, he's a minus 12. So what's the opposite of minus? Plus. So write plus 12. And then find your equal sign, draw a line. Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other. So plus 12. Now what's minus 12 plus 12? Well, if you use a number line, you're going to see that they're going to cancel each other out. They're going to go to 0. And the only thing that's left over here is that D. And then what's 5 plus 12? 17. So your answer is D equals 17. And it may feel really weird at first, but you're going to get the hang of it. Okay, let's try another example. 10 plus 7 equals A. So find your variable. He's over here. Put a box around it. Okay, now what constant is attached to the variable? Well, here's our equal sign. There's no one attached to it. So you just solve the problem over here. 10 plus 7 is 17. Bring down your A. A equals 17. Okay, 15 plus E equals 45. So find your variable. He's right here. Put a box around him. Now what's the variable that's attached to him? Or sorry, the constant that's attached to him? 15. Now is 15, is there an invisible plus or an invisible minus here? You should say that there's an invisible plus right here because he's positive. So let's do the opposite. Minus 15. Draw a line from your equal sign. So whatever I do on this side, I have to do on this side. Minus 15. 15 minus 15 is 0. Bring down your variable, E. And 45 minus 15 is 30. So your answer is E equals 30. Are you getting the hang of it so far? All right. So let's try this one here. I'm going to switch colors. So find your variable. 2 plus x equals 90. Put a box around your variable. Okay, what's attached to your variable? What constant is attached to it? Well, it's this 2 right here. Well, is this 2, is he positive or negative? What's that invisible sign over here? You should say positive. And so what's the opposite of plus 2? Minus 2. And then over here you have your equal sign. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Minus 2. So when you have 2 minus 2, they go bye-bye, and you get 0. And you bring down your x. And 90 minus 2 is 88. So your answer is x equals 88. Now that you've got the hang of it a little bit, I'm going to show you how to check your answer. Okay? So make sure you get this down because I'm going to erase what is up here. All right. Now, this says x equals 88. That means that you can go back up to your formula, your equation right here, okay? And you should be able to cross out the x and write 88. Now, does this make sense? 2 plus 88 equals 90. Well, what's 2 plus 88? 90 equals 90. So if you think back to the last lesson, does the solution work? You should really check yourself. Yes, the solution works. 90 equals 90. Okay? And if you get the wrong answer, the solution will not work. So let's try this one here. E minus 5 equals 8. So find your variable and put a box around it. What's attached to the variable? It's a minus 5, so we're going to do the opposite, which is plus 5. Here's my equal sign. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Minus 5 plus 5 is going to give us 0. So all you're left with is E, and 8 plus 5 is 13. So your answer should be E equals 13. But now I want you to go back and check. So up here, it should be 13 minus 5 equals 8. Well, what is 13 minus 5? Well, 13 minus 5 is 8. So 8 equals 8. Your solution works. Excellent. Okay, y minus 15 equals 13. So box your variable. What number is attached to it? The minus 15. Okay, so what's the opposite of minus 15? Plus 15. Minus 15 plus 15 is going to cancel out, and you're left with y. And what's 13 plus 15? You should get 28. So your answer is y equals 28. And now I want you to check it. Plug it back into the problem. So up here, it would be 28 minus 15 equals 13. Well, what is 28 minus 15? 13 equals 13. Your solution works. You're good to go. Okay, let's try this one. Y equals 372 minus 16. Well, put a box around your variable. Now, what constant is attached to it? Well, here's your equal sign. There's nothing attached to it. So you're good to go. Bring down your y and solve over here. 372 minus 16. And you can use your calculator. I'm going to borrow. So you should get 356. So y equals 356. But now I want you to go back and check your equation. So 356 equals 372 minus 16. Well, I just did 372 minus 16 right here, and that was 356. So 356 equals 356, and that works out perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to do these with you, and then you'll have more that you can try on your own. All right, so with these right here, we're going to just go a little bit quicker now. So x plus 4 equals 9. Box the variable. What's attached to it? Positive 4. What's the opposite? Minus 4. These guys cancel out. And x equals 9 minus 4 is 5. So your answer is x equals 5. And I always want you to go back and check your answer. So 5 plus 4 equals 9. Well, 5 plus 4 is 9 equals 9. You're good to go. All right, let's do this one here. X minus 2 equals 1. Put a box around the variable. What's the opposite of minus 2? Plus 2. And you do it to both sides because that's the golden rule. Minus 2 plus 2 is 0, so that goes away. You're left with x. 1 plus 2 is 3. X equals 3. And then I want you to go back and check. 3 minus 2 equals 1. Well, 3 minus 2 is 1, so 1 equals 1. You're good to go. All right, over here, y plus 6 equals 9. So you're going to box the variable. What's attached to it? Plus 6. What's the opposite? Minus 6. And because we need to follow the golden rule, we need to do it to both sides. So plus 6 minus 6, that cancels each other out. And we're left with y equals 9 minus 6 is 3. But I want you to go back and check it. So up here, I'm going to kind of squeeze it in up here. We have 3 plus 6 equals 9. Well, 3 plus 6 is 9. 9 equals 9, so that guy checks out. All right, over here we have y minus 3 equals 4. Put a box around the variable. What's the opposite of minus 3? Plus 3. And we do it to both sides because that's the golden rule. These guys cancel out, so we're left with y equals, and 4 plus 3 is 7. But I always want you to check. So 7 minus 3 equals 4. Well, 7 minus 3 is 4 equals 4. It checks out. We're good to go. All right, go ahead and try these on your own. I'm going to solve them at the same time. I do want you to check your answers, though, and then we'll go over them after. Okay, so the first one was just a little bit tricky if you went to check it, so don't worry too much about the first one here, but you could have used a number line to figure out that they equal each other, but I won't give you anything like that on a test or a quiz, so don't worry about that one. But the first one, it was a equals 7, and then it was r equals 17, x equals 15, and m equals 4. And you should have checked them all, so if you have not finished yet, I need you to pause the video, and I need you to go ahead and do that, and only if you're good do you move on. Okay, so I want you guys to try these out as well. Remember, you have your calculator to use, and I will write down the answers as well. Make sure that you check your answers. Okay, if you're not done, pause the video and finish before I go on. For number 1, you should get G equals 84. For number 2, you should get R equals 94. And for number 3, you should get S equals 54. And then for number 4, you should get T equals 138. And again, I need you to make sure that you're checking your answers. So does the solution work, so that you can figure out if you got the right answer. As long as you do that, you should have the right answer on every single test or quiz. There's no reason why you shouldn't get a 100. Okay? All right. That is the end of this lesson. If you are confused, you can always ask me questions, but you can always rewind, fast forward, and review the lesson.